Welcome back to Vinyl Friday, where I go through my record collection and I talk about why I love them. Today, we're listening to a classic album. It's a classic album week, and the album that we'll be listening to was chosen by you in this month's poll. It's an album that spent nearly 6 years on the Billboard 200 chart. Yes, I mean 6 years, not 6 months or 6 weeks. Years. And for 15 weeks of those 6 years, it actually occupied the top spot. The album went 14 times platinum, which made it one of the best-selling albums of all time, and it was also the first album by a woman to be certified diamond. It swept the Grammys the year after it came out. It picked up Album of the Year, Song of the Year, Record of the Year, Best Female Pop Performance. The album, of course, is Tapestry by Carole King, and it sounds like this.
I feel the earth move under my feet. I feel it's doesn't anybody stay in one place anymore. If I'm ever gonna make it home again, you got to get up every morning with a smile on your face and way over yonder. I'll come running, running, yeah, yeah. Where you lead, I will follow. But will you love me tomorrow? My life has been a tapestry of rich and royal. You make me feel.
On this fine Friday, we will be covering the making of the album, and we'll be breaking down one of my favorite songs. Before we do, though, I think we need some context, so we're going to travel back into the past. It's now the past. Carole King, as a child who does not go by the name of Carole King, I think her name was Carole Klein. Editor Nancy will correct me if I'm wrong. She was an exceptionally bright kid. She had absolute pitch, which doesn't necessarily mean that you're exceptionally bright. I'm sure there are plenty of people who are not bright who also have. Anyway, she learned piano from her mother because she just seemed to have a natural inclination for it. Her mother knew how to play, and she skipped first grade. That's not necessarily relevant to today's story, but it does, I suppose, bolster the argument that she is a smart woman. She began writing music from pretty early on, and by her early teens, she was recording demos with her childhood friend, Paul Simon. Yes, that Paul Simon. She met a guy named Jerry Goffin when they were in college together, but they both dropped out and got married when she was around 17 years old. And I think that this is a really good argument for making birth control accessible to young people. We'll just leave that there. They got day jobs, but they would write music together in the evenings and send out their demos. And around 1960, they wrote Will You Love Me Tomorrow, which became a smash hit.
But will you love me tomorrow?
Carole was still in her teens by this point. Really bright woman, very good songwriter, which I suppose is what we're here to spend the next 20 minutes talking about. Very good songwriter, smart woman, good music. Anyway, following the success of Will You Love Me Tomorrow, they quit their day jobs and they went to work in New York City, the Big Apple, at the Brill Building as professional full-time songwriters.
You could walk in and they had a piano in the room and you'd sit down and you'd play and they go, "That's great, kid. I'll take that song. Here's $25.
Together they wrote 118 Hot 100 hits. I'm not going to play them all for you, but I am going to do a highlight reel montage.
Take good care of my baby.
I'll do my crying in the rain.
Everybody's doing a brand new dance now.
One fine day, you're gonna want me.
Let's go up on a roof.
Something tells me I'm into something good. It might as well rain until September. Another Pleasant Valley Sunday.
You make me feel like a natural woman.
I'm sorry to report that all was not rosy by 1968. They were divorced. They were not speaking to each other. And Carole took their 2 daughters and she moved across the country to Laurel Canyon. Somewhere around 1968, she briefly formed a band, named it The City, which Let Me Tell You is a difficult band name to find on Google, with a bassist named Charlie Larkey and a guitarist named Danny Korchmar. They put out an album, and it's a pretty solid album.
Now that everything's been said, now that everything's been done.
So I do recommend you seek out the album and have a listen to it if you can actually find it on a search engine. But it didn't work out because Carole wasn't really keen on being the front person of a band. Or in her words, I always wanted to be a songwriter and never wanted to be a singer. Charlie and Cooch will show up later, so don't forget those names. While she was in Laurel Canyon, she met James Taylor and Joni Mitchell, who were an item at the time, and also lyricist Tony Stern, which was potentially an awkward arrangement for reasons that will become apparent shortly. So in a way, this episode is like a follow-on from the Buffalo Springfield episode, which was the classic album from last month, in that this was the new guard of Laurel Canyon. This is the next generation of musicians. Anyway, this is the point where our story really kicks off. Carole was kind of hesitant about writing music for herself because she'd always written music with Jerry Goffin. And also, she had put out a debut album that really didn't perform that well.
Ooh, brother, brother, brother.
However, she was working with James Taylor at the time, I think on Sweet Baby James.
Rockabye, sweet baby Jane.
And he encouraged her and coached her, motivated her to become a singer-songwriter in her own right. She enters the studio, where Joni, I think, was recording Blue at the time. They dropped the lights to give it a nice homey feel, and with a little help from her friends, her Laurel Canyon buddies, she records Tapestry. With some of the other classic albums episodes that we've covered, we have seen artists who have worked for months at great expense to realize perfectly their creative vision. And this album in many ways is the opposite. They recorded this thing in 3 weeks and it cost $22,000. Ow. It was an album that was recorded simply, with the comfort of good friends and of good lighting, and we should never underestimate the power of good lighting. The cover art was shot in the comfort of her own home. You see, she's in a slouchy grey sweater. Sorry, quick aside. Everybody should own at least one slouchy grey sweater, holding a tapestry that she had hand sewn. Yeah, sewn. Not knitted. And her cat Telemachus is in the photo. He's cute. Apparently they only got him to sit still for like 2 or 3 frames and then he was off on his cat missions, but, you know, it's a comfortable domestic scene. I think that the music reflects that comfortable domesticity. While other artists at the time, the people around her, were leading wild lives and having complicated flings and taking a cornucopia of illicit substances, sometimes to disastrous effect, here we have Carole King, a divorcee, a mother of 2, possibly thinking that the heights of her career are behind her, telling us about the tapestry of her life, what it feels like to be this person. On this album, she reimagines 2 of her earlier hits. Well, they were hits for other people, but tracks that she wrote when she was younger. Will You Love Me Tomorrow? You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman. They take on a much more sober, mature tone because they are sung and performed by a much more mature Carole King. She is older, she's acquired a little more wisdom. I say older, but she was actually only 29 still. But, you know, she was not an elder, but she was kind of an elder. 29-year-old elder. However, neither of those are songs that I've chosen to listen today. This is the song I've chosen to listen to today. The song is It's Too Late. It was a very popular single when it was released. And to contradict everything that I've just said about simplicity and unadorned and all of that, this is actually one of the more complex and more produced tracks on the album. I'm going to start by talking about the lyrics. They were written by Tony Stern, who we mentioned earlier, following her breakup from James Taylor. And these lyrics, coincidentally, paralleled Carole's experience with her own divorce. So, match made in heaven. It was written in about 20 minutes. Boom, very few edits. And it's heartbreakingly composed. I think the heartbreak lies in the fact that the tragedy of the breakup is communicated in such a matter-of-fact way. The chorus ending with this line here.
I can't hide and I just can't fake it.
I think this is the saddest kind of breakup. There was no big blowout, there was no huge fight. People involved just evolved in different directions, and despite their best efforts, the relationship died a slow death. Awful. The words that Tony has used are simple, but they communicate everything you could possibly need to know.
There's something wrong here, there can be no denying.
One of us is changing, or maybe we just stopped trying. Sucker punch to the heart. This verse deals in the present. This is what is happening right now. Second verse.
It used to be so easy living here with you.
Used to be. We're in the past. We're looking at what the relationship used to be like. I think this makes it even sadder. Specifically that she highlights the effortlessness of the relationship, having explained already that they are trying, or maybe they've stopped trying, but they've given it their best and it's not working now. There's this idea of not disliking one another, but just not being able to get back to that place where it was easy. It's now hard work and nothing seems to be working. Tragic. And then we come to the last verse.
There'll be good times again for me and you.
What a lovely, mature approach. It's gonna be fine. It's not right now. It is gonna be in the future. And we had a good time, and for that, I'm grateful.
I'm glad for what we had and how I once loved you.
There's no animosity. It's just a letting go, a relinquishing of the relationship. Stevie and Lindsay really could have taken notes on this one. It's hopeful and it's respectful, which honestly is kind of a lovely sentiment in a breakup song. That's the lyrics. Let's talk about the music now. I really enjoy how you melt into this song with the delivery of that first chord. See, it just cascades into place. That opening riff is just lovely. And I'm underqualified to talk about it, so I'm going to hand you over to the piano correspondent. Hi, how's it going? Okay, so the reason it feels like we're melting into the song is that she's playing the first chord like this. From there we go. Ooh, that's a lovely chord, isn't it? It's a D6, like a D6, like a D6. Which, incidentally, is the chord that opens Fool on the Hill. Will it Beatles? Of course. Okay, so that's the first chord, second chord, and then this. Like I said last week, this is an example of taking what could have been a really simple chord sequence and complicating it, just jazzing it up a little bit. The simpler version sounds like this. But this is more mature, this is sexier. This verse is bluesy, especially this line here.
One of us is changing.
One of us is changing is a very bluesy melodic choice, which makes it so much more heartbreaking when we move to the chorus, which steps away from that bluesiness of the verse and into this exchange of major seventh chords. It's very somber, very serious and sad, plaintive. All right, so we've had a few bars of pivot away from that dark bluesiness to this. Still pretty bluesy. Followed by this. What is this? This has feelings in it. Complex feelings. And then last, this major 7, F major 7. It is a major chord, but because it has this on the end, it's a little bit sad. It's a little bit of a sad major chord. But it's different from a sad minor chord, which would sound like this. That's what we have in the blues section, A minor 7. But this is... And then the whole chorus continues in this vein. Too late, baby, now it's too late. Both major 7s. till something inside is dying and I can't hide it. Back to our minor sevenths, and I can't. Oh no. Back to our. We know that bit now. It starts at this transition here.
Or maybe we just stopped trying.
The chorus features this surprisingly funky bass line that is played for us by Charlie, who we met earlier. We'll get the bass correspondent to play it for us, shall we? As a side note, she eventually married this bassist. They had 2 kids, they got divorced, didn't work out. There's also this sound at the chorus that I can't identify. It sounds like a Celeste to me, but actually now that I think about it, it's probably electric piano. It's beautiful.
And it's too late, baby, now it's too late.
Maybe it's not an electric. It does sound like a Celeste. In case you don't know what a Celeste is, it's the Harry Potter theme song instrument. Let me check the liner notes. Who's on this? Nope. There's no Celeste listed. If one of you happens to know, please tell me. I'm burning with curiosity. Verse 2 builds on verse 1 beautifully. Verse 1, we establish the melody, the chords, the riff. Verse 2 introduces a guitar part played by Cooch. I don't know about that nickname, man. And also these beautiful backing vocals.
You were light and breezy, and I knew just what to do.
I think this is what they're singing. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it. Lovely backing vocals. We get to chorus 2. Chorus 2 also builds us up from chorus 1. It feels bigger. For instance, Joel someone, what's his name? On drums, Joel O'Brien on drums has added a nice little hit of ride cymbal. This is chorus 1 against chorus 2.
And it's too late, baby, now it's too late. Though we
It's subtle, but it does change the feel of it. It makes it more emotional. It's bigger. It's a bigger feeling. And this chorus has this beautiful, tidy turnaround at the end of it here.
I just can't fake it. Oh no.
We haven't had that chord before. That's new. Let's get the piano correspondent in again to show us what's happening there. Okay, so the first chorus ends, something inside is dying and I can't hide it, I just can't fake it. That melody becomes the 7th of the chord. I can't fake it, oh no. The second chorus, she sings the same melody, but the chord changes underneath it. And I can't hide it, I just can't fake it. Same note sounds totally different in this context as opposed to this context. It's this context. Oh, isn't that beautiful? And then we come to a totally new chord sequence. Back into the minor riff. Lovely. That's really beautiful. It's just great writing. You can see why she was such a hit maker in her youth. Thus commences the solo section. First solo is this dual lead with the piano and the guitar. Cooch. And then these densely layered vocals are laid over the top, and it forms this stunning canon. If you don't know what a canon is, it's this. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Your boat gently, merrily, merrily, your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a you get it. That's a canon. Beautiful. Those chords just open up at the end, and then we return to our minor blues riff for some more soloing. Danny opens, Cooch starts, and his guitar is very unadorned. It's not distorted or anything. It's very simple, pleasant guitar solo. now we've got another sort of double solo. We've got soprano sax and electric piano improvising simultaneously. Whoa. They're communicating so beautifully together. Every time one takes a breath, the other fills that gap. It's an interplay, it's a conversation. It's time for the third verse. Bring things back down. The solo reaches its high point, and then we come back down. No backing vocals the second time. It's somber. The second verse is about how fun and exciting the relationship was. So we've got those backing vocals. It's bigger, it's emotional. This last verse is far more sober. This is over. It's been great. I'm sorry. It's gonna be okay. No backing vocals. It's not the time for backing vocals. The chorus, though, we bring it all back up again. And this time, the drums are even more complicated. We've got these ghost notes coming through. Great choice, Joel. A ghost note is when, instead of just smacking the drum skin, you're letting the head of the drumstick bounce a couple of times. So instead of bang, bang, you might get ba-rum-ba, ba-rum-ba. Have a listen.
Something inside has died and I can't.
At this point in the song, we could have returned to the minor riff, which we've done before. But instead, we go back to the bridge chords, where we had our little solo. We revisit that solo moment. And I think it is an incredibly effective illustration of what's happening in the lyrics. It's gonna be okay. It's hopeful. It's optimistic. It's too late, baby. It's too late now, darling. Which is the same as the start of the... But we're ending the song on major chord, not minor chord. If she ended on the minor, it would sound like this. It's too late, baby. It's too late now, darling. It's too late. No. It's happier than that. It's gonna be okay. And then it ends on this glorious, angelic vocal harmony.
It's too late.
Here's what I think she's singing. It's too late. Now, isn't that just celestial? Beautiful work from Carole King there. Stunning. Now, this song features... You could make the argument that her 10,000 hours at the Brill Building paid off, but you also have to remember that she wrote Will You Love Me Tomorrow when she was like 17 or 18 years old. So I think it would be more accurate to say that she just has this innate understanding of melody, harmony, and structure. She's just a natural-born songsmith. Before we close today, I would like to talk about the cultural impact of this album, of this incredible woman's work. Firstly, pivoting from the role of like pop songwriter with a company job to solo singer-songwriter was a brave and pretty risky career move. There were a handful of women who were doing the singing and the songwriting, like Judy Collins and Joan Baez, but for the most part, they were relegated to the folk community, and what she was doing was centered in pop, and had always been centered in pop. Pre-Carole and Joni and Carly, if women were on the pop charts, it was because they were singing someone else's music. I'm talking about women like Nancy Sinatra, or Dusty Springfield, or Cher. They were not really writing their own music. They were writing songs that were written for them by people like Carole King used to be. And like those people, Carole, earlier in her career, had been secondary to the artist that she was writing the music for. She was sort of a background figure. And in making this, she paved the way for other singer-songwriters who were not men to make their way in the quagmire of the music industry. She broke this invisible barrier, and she proved that women could be accomplished and respected in this field. And among those who have cited her as being critically influential, we have Roberta Flack, Tori Amos, Rickie Lee Jones, Sharon Van Etten, one of my favorites, Joan Armatrading, Lucinda Williams, Chaim, Natalie Merchant, Wiseblood, Lucy Dacus, and me. Speaking of me, that's it from me. If you enjoyed this episode or you would like to support any of the weird things I do, I will leave a link in the description to my Buy Me a Coffee page where you are most welcome to make a donation, if you wish. Speaking of Buy Me a Coffee, the mask from that video, the walrus video, has been kicking around my living room since November, and it's just taking up space. This mask. As much time as I spent on it, it really doesn't need to live with me anymore. So, I've actually set up a page for it on my Buy Me a Coffee page. If you're interested in purchasing this limited, one-of-a-kind beauty, and you're willing to pay the asking price and shipping, it's all yours. So yeah, there's now a shop tab on the Buy Me a Coffee page. This is the only item on the shop tab, so please take it off my hands. Also, if you're curious about what any of my original music sounds like, I'll leave a link in the description for that as well. Otherwise, thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you here next week. Have a great weekend! I feel like there's something else I was supposed to say. What the hell was it? Oh, right. If you'd like to vote for next month's classic album, I will put up a poll in the first week of March, and you can do your thing. Tell me what you want to listen to. Good. That's it. Certified Diamond. What was that? What do I mean by that? Good album, man. These are some good tracks. Nice, thank you. And these really take a lot of chewing. There's an exceptionally... Still going. Baby, what you done to me? She meets a guy named Jerry Coffin. You make me feel so good inside. Let's turn this around so I can see myself. Narcissist that I am. And I just wanna be. As a side note, another side note, there are so many side notes. It's just a perk of listening to me talk. Side notes, tangents. I've forgotten what my side note is. Let's get the piano conifer. Let's get the piano. Oh my god. And I just can't fake. Nope, that's really not it. It's definitely not that chord. I'll leave in the. It's gonna be okay. Maybe I should just insert this into every episode because I really feel like a lot of us need to hear that at the moment.